Today on Overwatch This, we discuss Oasis on the PTR, Christmas skins and our amazing doodles of them, and the state of the competitive scene at the moment. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 10 of Overwatch This. It is Joel and Ben here once more.
Hello everyone.
And we've got some fairly exciting stuff to talk about this week, starting with a brand new map. So, as speculated for a couple of weeks now, Oasis is here. It launched on the PTR last night, and quite cool.
Yeah, it looks really nice. It's kind of got the general Overwatch art style that we're used to. It's quite, nice, huge rooms, everything caricatured to be massive, and yeah, it's really colourful. Interestingly, I was expecting it to maybe have a closer tie to a character. I don't know which character it would have been, but for example, Eichenwald was Reinhardt's map, and there are a few maps that are this is Lucio's map. Or whatever.
So it's not really anyone's. It's just
it just kind of exists. I think part of that might come down to it being a control map, like one of the King of the Hill style maps, and those, because they are split into three, I think it's a bit harder to tie them to an individual character, because you have three kind of slightly smaller areas rather than one larger one that you can do more with, because you don't have any spare room on a control map, because you have to have these three kind of bits that are all centered around playing around this one point. You can't have you can't just kind of throw in a room, because they also have to be symmetrical.
That's true.
So
that's true. I was still slightly surprised. It's got a trampoline in it, basically.
Yeah, it's got a big electronic trampoline.
Yeah, there you go.
They discussed this at BlizzCon slightly. I think they might have overhyped it a little bit. I mean, I don't know if maybe they overhyped it, or it was just kind of one of the only things they said, so everyone was like,
probably that, because how much hype can you give a jump pad?
It's
not like we haven't seen them in countless FPS multiplayer games before.
I think they've been in games since Quake 2,
exactly.
Maybe the original Quake.
But this is the first one of these we've got.
Yeah, it's the first one in an Overwatch map.
It's something, I suppose.
Yeah, and so the thing about it is, the way it's used in the map is there's a jump pad, and then it kind of launches you up onto this ledge overlooking one of the control points. It's on one of the three bits of the map, and if you go up there, you can shoot down to the control point. But it doesn't that's not actually different. If it was just a set of stairs, it would just be slightly slower to get up to.
Yeah, I suppose
it would be the same.
I suppose it remains to be seen if and how people find creative ways to use it, because they usually do. But at the moment, it's just a jump pad, right?
Yeah, and a lot of the characters that it doesn't give access that characters wouldn't have anyway, because a lot of the characters that use verticality, with a couple of exceptions, can get up there anyway. Like Pharah can fly, Diva can fly.
Exactly.
Widowmaker's got her
actually fly.
Got her grappling hook.
Sort of a bit different.
It's not like if you did it to Call of Duty, if you added a jump pad to Call of Duty, that's a very different, or particularly maybe the classic Call of Duties before they added the jump packs and that sort of thing, right?
I think that's it, isn't it? And there's a new kind of kill trigger, which I have to admit I haven't actually seen yet.
So along the edges of one of the three maps, there is a road, and there's cars on the road, and they don't give a crap that you're trying to protect freedom or whatever it is that Overwatch characters are doing on their daily basis, and they'll run you down. It's actually it's fairly interesting, because it actually has a slight element of gameplay to it that makes it different from just falling off the map. Because if you're knocked off the map and you're playing a character that can't fly, you're just dead.
Yeah.
If you're knocked into the path of these cars, depending on where those cars are, you might be able to play quite cleverly. Maybe if you have a particularly high jump or something, you might be able to get out of the way of one car and then manage to get out of it before you get hit by the rest.
It's like Overwatch meets Frogger.
Exactly, yeah. It's only a couple of lanes, and there is a death drop on the other side of the road.
Yeah,
so, but yeah, it's fairly interesting, and there's been some bugs focused around that, where if you stand next to a car with Zarya's shield up, it counts as her taking infinite damage onto her shield, which charges her up by 40 energy, which is very good.
Right, okay.
So whether that'll make it into the live version or not,
I don't think it will.
Remains to be seen.
And I suppose, speaking of that, there are bugs around, as you'd expect at this point, now that they've just launched a new map.
Yeah, pretty much. There's basically, it looks like there's a few places where they haven't remembered, or they haven't applied properly the slip I don't know how to call it, slip geometry, where you're not meant to be able to land on what looks like a flat surface, because if you can land there, that'll be abusive for certain characters. There's one point, one of the maps has a point that has some ledges up above it, and on one side of the point you can't land on them, and the other side you can, which is obviously not going to be fair, you know.
Bug, yeah.
And there's another one where there's a ledge that's under like the most of the map, but just above the kill trigger for like falling off the map. Right. On one side of it, and maybe it's meant to be a hiding spot, but somebody like went into third person when they were standing on it, and their legs were like glitching through the floor the whole time.
Probably not.
So probably not. So yeah.
And I guess the interesting thing at this time of year is what this means for other things going live. So we talked a lot last week about Symmetra on the PTR, but we're thinking now that'll be late. Well, not I was about to say later this year, but that wouldn't really work.
There's a lot of later.
30th of November. Next year, early next year, right?
Yeah, I think so. So the debate was whether they were going to put Symmetra live and then put Oasis onto the PTR separately, or if they were going to have it all on at once. And that's what it's like at the moment. Jeff Kaplan also went onto the forums the other day and just made a very quick one-line post that was like, yeah, we're still doing Symmetra stuff. She needs a little while yet. It's possible that, we've got, I would say, and we'll come on to a little bit of this when we were talking about the Christmas skins, but I'd say we have about 2 or 3 weeks of in-office Blizzard time left.
Yeah.
Probably 2.5 until their Christmas break, and then they will come back probably the first week of January, the same as everybody else does. That's what we've seen from World of Warcraft and that sort of thing in the past. So I think that patch 1.6, which will have Oasis, the Symmetra changes, the balance changes that are currently on the PTR, and probably some other little bits like voice lines and that sort of thing, will probably happen the second week of January.
I think that's probably likely too. I mean, behind the journalistic curtain, basically the games industry shuts down in about 10 to 15 days.
Yeah, and it's done for 3 weeks.
Nothing happens after that. However, that doesn't mean we won't get anything before the end of the year, because that brings us nicely to Christmas skins. So, Christmas skins. I mean, we've done a big journalism and
so much journalism
and doodle them in paint. That's basically what we've done so far. However, having said that, I think some of them are brilliant. We basically put a call out to the team to take the artwork and make it Christmassy, and some of them are quite disturbing, like Phil's Torbjorn Tracer crossbreed thing. Some of them are great. Kelly did a really good Christmas pudding version of Roadhog. I particularly like Rich's Scrooge Reaper. Basically, they're really funny. Have a look on the site.
There'll be a link down in the description.
Yeah, we'll put a link in as well.
They are fair.
Obviously, they're a joke, but we do think the Christmas skins will probably come. You think they'll be coming December 14th.
Yeah.
My inclination was earlier because I don't think it's long enough, but I mean, I shall bow to your superior knowledge.
Okay, so December 14th, the argument for that is so we've had 2 events so far, Summer and Halloween. Those have lasted 3 weeks each. I think exactly or almost exactly, maybe like 1 day either side or something like that. And if it starts December 14th, that is a few days before Blizzard leaves for the holidays. That's probably their last week of work, so they'll have that Tuesday to prep it all and get it live, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to go, oh, this skin makes you invisible on this map for some reason, right? And then they'll be live through the Christmas period, and 3 weeks after the 14th is the 4th of January. Mm-hmm. They should be back in the office by then. I don't know exactly how
particularly lazy.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how American holidays work, but that's when we're back in the office here. It's the day after that.
Yeah.
So, that would be what I would expect, just due to the length that we've had other ones in the past. And it means that they can come back into the office, they can go, okay, let's bring all this down, and then they can spend that week prepping to launch patch 1.6, as we were just talking about, the week afterwards.
I guess that makes sense. I just, it's 10 days before Christmas Eve. I sort of wondered if they'd like to have them kicking around longer before actual Christmas, but
yeah, it is entirely possible that they will just go live next week and the event will last 4 weeks. I think both of those are roughly equally likely. My bet would be on the 14th, just because they seem to like the 3 week period.
Yeah.
It gives people enough time to play while still leaving the skins rare for casual players that maybe play a couple of times a week, 3 times a week. They will probably get a couple of skins. And maybe buy one more, but they don't have everything they want, which is originally that was what the Overwatch team said they wanted for these event skins. Was
I think
to
that's
be a bit
the way
rarer.
it should be, frankly.
Yeah.
I don't know. So in terms of what we think we'll get, I mean, here's some straight logic
crunched,
for you.
Yeah.
We got 11 in the summer patch, 12 in the Halloween patch, so obviously we'll get 75. So around that number, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go 11, 12, 13.
No,
I think it being 12 was just a coincidence, and I think they will go for around a dozen.
Yeah.
What I would guess is maybe in summer they planned for 12. One of them didn't work out.
Maybe.
Would be my guess. So the split was, in summer, there was 5 epics and 6 legendaries, but the 6 legendaries, 3 of them were recolors of the other 3. Okay.
Don't care for
which
this at all.
which I don't particularly like. In Halloween, it was 8 epics and 4 legendaries, but all of the legendaries were like properly unique.
That's a much better way of
it was four different characters with 4 different legendaries.
Yeah.
And Halloween was super like well received. Summer wasn't particularly well received, but a lot of that came down to being able to buy skins outside of just buying boxes. Halloween let you do that, Summer didn't. They're not going to go back to the Summer system on that. That would be PR suicide.
Oh, yeah.
The Halloween one worked quite well and has still left the skins rare for everybody except, people who just play absolute shed loads. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what I mean, we hopefully people have seen this. We've done a lot of number crunching on the drop rates for the various boxes and loots and skins. If we can flog our poor staff writer Jordan to do it again, we will try and do it for Christmas skins.
Summer skins in Australia.
Summer skins. Yeah. That's exactly what I meant.
Exactly.
And I guess we'll see. There's a couple of sort of more fun questions to ask, like who's going to get to be headline Santa skin.
There's so many options.
There actually are. Torbjorn was my first thought,
because there's that bit of fan art that that bit of official art that was posted last year that we've used in 1,000 videos and is popping up on the screen right now.
Quite a while ago, that. So you just don't know.
Roadhog, he fits quite well.
Guess so.
Winston was Matt's guess. He's got the
Winston
bag
would
of toys.
Actually work quite well.
And then
I don't see Roadhog as Santa,
but it would.
That's not in his
nature.
Him. Yeah, maybe.
Well, he's good. He could have all the toys and then keep all the toys,
which is toys or something. Like that.
That's how I would do it.
Yes.
And then there's also what was going to be outside of that. There's the abominable snowman, and obviously therefore the adorable snowmay.
Yeah, there'll be some sort of reindeer thing.
Definitely a reindeer.
Someone will be an elf.
I'm wondering if a lot of our guesses are going to be right, if not artistically, but perhaps
that would
in
be great.
Theme.
If they do,
it would be great.
Lots of "we told you so."
There will be so much bragging come January 4th.
There's been some data mining of the audio files, and as you've put in the notes here, none point to a new brawl, but we'll probably get a new brawl.
Yeah, brawls have been very popular as things that they can release during events that kind of represent that event and give people something new to do, give people a reason to log in beyond here's some new cosmetics.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people go, oh, those cosmetics are cool, but I think there is a large section of people, possibly a majority, that don't find they like the cosmetics of the game, and cosmetics keep them playing, but getting them to actually log in if they've taken 3 or 4 weeks off, maybe they've been playing WoW since the expansion came out, like I have, for example.
Everyone's like you, Ben.
they might not log back in unless they have something new to play.
Well, I mean, I suppose there's a possibility of the Halloween thing. We had the wave mode with them. I guess we could have a snowman or yeti wave.
Yeah, exactly. They could just reskin that depending on how much time they've had. It hasn't been ages since the Halloween event.
No, obviously hasn't.
I think that didn't stop until the start of November, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there hasn't been a ton of development time there, but there was quite a big gap between release and summer, and then between summer and Halloween. There was a lot of time in there to develop something, I think, and the summer game mode was fairly simple, just Lucio and the ball, and then a pretty much flat map. So that probably didn't take a ton of development time. This stuff always takes way longer. It was
mechanically more different than the Halloween one, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah,
stuff.
There was probably more coding work, but less artwork.
Yeah, I think that's probably
right. These things also always take way longer than anybody thinks they do, unless you're on the team. Because there's the whole concepting phase, where you go through 20 ideas before you land on one that you actually want. But yeah, I would expect a new brawl. They're always popular, and I would expect it to be probably some kind of single player thing, just because that proved so some sort of co-op thing with a story, because that proved so popular in Halloween.
Yeah, so I mean, either this time next week we'll be talking about what's been revealed, or this time in 2 weeks. Either way, we'll have you covered. Until then, have a look at our lovely doodles on the site, because they are actually quite good.
There will be more.
Right, final section for this week is on Dreamhack Winter, at which we had an Overwatch tournament.
There was a big old Overwatch tournament.
There was. We were there. It was wintry by all accounts. So basically, it was won by Misfits, who won the Overwatch Open. That's no great surprise.
Yeah.
You think that's a good thing in that? Well, that and the teams expected to do well did well, and I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah, because it's a new game. I mean, okay, it's not a new game in terms of it came out
It's still a
6 or
newish
7
game.
months ago.
Yeah.
But esports have lifetimes of decades.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Brood War is still kind of going. StarCraft 2 is still going. Something like Counter-Strike, if you count all its versions, is legitimately like 20 years old at this point. So at the start of a game's lifetime, you don't want these teams that are actually getting salaries or getting sponsorships and that sort of thing. You don't want them getting beaten by Tom, Dick and Harry from down the road who brought their own computers, because it needs to be, you need to show sponsors that if they put money into a team, those teams will do well.
Absolutely.
And that isn't the best for like watching, right? Like, while you want to see team, like you want some expected results, everyone loves the underdog and all that, right?
Yes. However, you also want to see really high level play. I think the trouble comes when you only have one very good team.
Yeah.
If you have a few and they're getting really good, then they then push each other to get better, and the overall standard of play goes up and up and up. And I mean, in the final, it was a 3-2 score, so it wasn't like a whitewash or anything like that. So we're not necessarily seeing one super dominant team already. So I think it's kind of looking relatively healthy.
Yeah, and this was the first like major tournament after BlizzCon. BlizzCon was a bit of a whitewash in favor of the Koreans.
Yes.
It was a very, very different format. It didn't, there wasn't money on the line in the same way.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you can take that, but yeah. So this was the team that you would expect to win. They won close. The teams, so what it was 4 teams that came from these international qualifiers that happened in a few different regions, and then there was 4 bring your own computer tournament teams, which was people who just fought through like an open bracket of God knows how many teams there must have been. Like it would have been like 128 teams, something like that. So those 4 teams that came through that BYOC thing, they all didn't make it out of groups,
right?
But it's not like they got destroyed. It wasn't like all of their games were like 2-0s with them not winning any points or anything. They took points, they took games. Those matches were also close. Like the ones where they lost, it wasn't like just the good team that has sponsors went and sat on the point and they won. Like they were close games, and that's what you want to see. You want to see at this stage the teams with sponsors. You want to see them triumphing. Is that a word?
That'll work. Let's go with that.
Having triumph, and but you want to see the lower teams proving that they can stand up against this, and that with their own investment from money or sponsors or time, they can get even better and strive to be good and create a large number of teams that can all compete together, and X beats Y, but then Y beats Z, but Z beats X, and God knows who's good anymore.
Yeah, and one thing I found interesting from what you've said is that some people played Sombra, and we talked about this, I think 2 weeks ago now, just after she went live, and we were speculating as to how she would work in high-level competitive play, and intriguingly seems to be the answer.
Yeah, so there's no kind of definite yes, she's overpowered, or no, she's completely unusable. Her first ever outing happened at like the Overwatch Apex, which is the Korean long-running league where they play like 1 match a day or 2 matches a day rather than trying to get it all done in a weekend. And she was not very useful.
Right.
But then at Dreamhack Winter, people actually kind of built teams around her, and people weren't expecting her in the same sort of way. And basically what happened is, the way Overwatch professional play works is teams are grouped up, and if you're grouped up and you all get hit by Sombra's EMP, you are all very, very vulnerable for 6 seconds. And what happened a couple of times was that there would be these grouped up teams, and they wouldn't think to split up once they knew that the enemy Sombra had her ultimate charge, which she gets very, very quickly using the health packs like we were talking about last week.
Exactly.
And they would get hit by the EMP and they get wiped, and then that would be the end of that point, or the payload would get pushed a bit further, or they wouldn't get to be on the payload anymore, or whatever the goal was in that instance. But that is counterable. You can just kill the Sombra. You can split out. She's not always good against different heroes. What's great is that she's good against certain picks that have been very ubiquitous through the last few months of competitive play. Heroes like Reinhardt, where she can just take down his shield, and then he is basically useless. Like the main reason he's good is because you can protect your team and let them shoot out other people. So yeah, it was really good to see that happen. Hopefully she doesn't either drift into being the only viable pick, and also she doesn't drift into obscurity. What you want, if you're Blizzard and if you're a fan of watching the game, is you want there to be more viable heroes than 6, because you don't want it to be a mirror match each time, and you want it to be arguably like double or more than that. so that you can kind of have this thing where teams are constantly rotating in and out, and they can surprise each other by having unexpected picks on certain areas of the map that are only good because they weren't expected, but then because they weren't expected, they then get to push past that point in the map, and then they are good on the next bit of the map, or what, you know, however it is, it ends up working.
Yes, it's what he said. Basically, competitive play is looking quite good at the moment. As we said before, it'll be interesting to see if and how Sombra is tweaked as time goes on, depending on how she's using competitive play. But it's nice to see that she's working, but not working in a way that demands that everyone needs a Sombra and things like that. So that's cool. We have a little bit more competitive Overwatch before the year's out. We have the cunningly named Masters Gaming Arena 2016 happening next week.
That's in London. I'm going to be there on the finals day. There's 4 teams there, 1 from Korea, 1 from the US, and then I think 2 from Europe. Fnatic is there, they were invited, and then Ninjas in Pyjamas are there as well, who were both of those teams were at the Dreamhack tournament and did quite well. They both made it out of groups, and Fnatic was actually who Misfits beat in the final, so that'll be good to see them. And there's also a Korean team there. Hopefully the Koreans don't just romp over everybody. Yeah,
and so as Ben says, he'll be there, so we'll have some reports from the show and see if we can chat to some people and report that way. And yeah, I mean, after that, I guess we're kind of wrapping up for the year. We'll still be here for a few weeks, but in terms of competitive play, that's going to be about it until next year, right?
Yeah, and we're planning to still have an episode each week through the break. We're not sure exactly what they're going to be.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
we'll probably have some kind of year in review and some sort of 2017 preview type deal, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That about wraps it up for this week. Do subscribe for next week's video, where hopefully, as I say, we'll be talking winter skins and giving a bit of a 2017 preview. Give us a like and drop your comments below, and see you next week.